Test telephone switch to arm light on.
Switching command to internal. Fuel tank pressure 61.25. Gearing lock, thank you. Visually promote. Minus 125. Switching primary to lock condition. Minus 120.
Status check. Command on internal.
Affirmative.
Telemetry and launch condition.
Affirmative.
Missile and internal DC.
Affirmative.
Pressurization complete.
Affirmative.
T-minus 60 seconds and counting. Status check. Range safety arm light on.
Affirmative.
Range ready.
Ready.
Water system ready.
Affirmative.
I have a prep complete light. Locks tanking secured.
Box tanking secured.
T-minus 27 seconds and counting. All recorders and oscillographs to pass. Vernier start.
Pressurized. Pressurized.
Systems check. 12,058 and climbing normal. G at 10. We're on course. Booster off in 20.
Fusion rate within parameter. Primary fuel levels 100%. Battery 99.7.
Oxygen nitrox.
Good and good. Compression normal.
Booster off. Velocity still climbing. Normal. Ray has hit the AG.
On. Complete. 9.8 meters per second squared.
Okay, Mason, let me know when we reach the moon.
Approaching Lagrange. Throttle down in 538. We're approaching the moon, sir. Passing Gateway 2. Maneuvering for mid-orbit. Establishing in 3, 2, 1.
Lieutenant, let's do a full scan, including Artemis Base Camp.
Roger, scanning. Full. Go for scan.
We have a Space Force cruiser, port at 90, passing by at 1890, sir.
Lieutenant, start over tracking on that Space Force cruiser.
Aye, aye, sir.
Haven't you had enough problems with them already?
They know that I know they're tracking us. They'll be pissed, but shouldn't be surprised. It's actually to be expected at this point. Just a little spycraft that's been going on between us for years, even before their big investigation.
But what about blowing our cover?
If I act any different than what they're used to, they'll know for sure we're looking for the Ark.
Right, but once we make it past Jupiter, they're going to know what we're up to.
Yeah, I'm concerned. And if they stop us, we're screwed. If we don't find the Ark, that might be the end of Maverick Aerospace.
And definitely the end of the Mars colony. And my family.
I might be able to outrun them, but let's hope it doesn't come to that.
Captain, let's maneuver to the coordinates for the Artemis supply capsule launch.
Aye, sir.
Lieutenant, prepare for launching.
Aye, aye, sir.
Go when ready.
Roger that. Ready? Launch cycle start, go. Separation. On target.
Set our course to Jupiter. Let's get on with this.
Aye, aye. Setting course, sir. Commander, why are we so overloaded on anomaly tracking?
There's something out there. Something NASA's missing, or even Space Force is hiding. I don't know which.
The government's always hiding something. They're not hiding Vaughn. And this is not a conspiracy. Sometimes friends hide things. What gives? Is it not cool, man?
Mason, to be honest, we got some weird readouts on the Maverick components we built for the Ark. It was just a few seconds. It was weird.
And you didn't tell me? Did you at least have our AI team look at them?
No, I didn't. But it was nothing. It was just 3 seconds of nothing. I can't explain it. But it just bothered me.
It bothers me that you didn't tell me. Full disclosure, okay?
We've been working together way too long. We're all at risk here.
It was just some additional tracking. I know your daughter's on the own. I know she's been missing for 4 years now. I'm sorry. I should have told you. I should have told both of you.
By the book. That's how it is. By the book.
Point taken. I promise, by the book.
Hi, Dad. I'm doing great. I miss you so much. We're almost to Mars. I've been working hard, getting ready to offload some of these farming supplies. I'm really looking forward to your visit if Maverick gets the contract. Take care. I love you so much. And I hope you're being safe out there.
Ariana, I'll find you, I promise.
Commander, it's about time for hibernation.
Already? I hate hibernation.
Lieutenant, it's time. Meet us in hibernation. I love autopilot. Okay, breathe deep.
Aye, Captain.
Computer,
Good afternoon, Captain. How may I help you?
show me the schematics on the Maverick navigation system built for the NASA Ark.
One moment, please.
Show me all the Maverick navigation tracking projects.
One moment, please.
That's strange.
What is strange, Jack? You didn't answer my question, Jack.
Show me all the files for the Maverick employees that worked on the Ark navigation and tracking systems.
Very well. Is something wrong? There's no need to get angry, Jack.
Computer, engage failsafe protocol 2.
Have you tried resolution analysis? Can I be of help, Jack? Can I be of help, Jack? Can I be of help, Jack? These are your command prompts, in case you have forgotten.
I remember. Protocol 2, please.
Thank you, Jack. Submit I, please. Whatever you say, Jack.
Lieutenant, wake up.
What happened? How's the ship?
There's no emergency, Lieutenant. I just want to talk to you in private and tell you what I found.
Okay, shoot.
Remember that German engineer Schmidt?
Yes, of course.
2 of the 10 components we built for the Ark were modified. They're not as I designed them.
Tracking and navigation.
Right. Only 3 people had the access codes, and we're 2 of them. It's possible Schmidt could have hacked into the system, but I doubt it.
The commander. But those files were checked by NASA and Space Force.
They never checked Maverick 1's AI computer, and she backs up everything.
So the changes made at HQ were erased. So what are you getting at?
The commander or Schmidt, or both, planned the malfunction and the secret tracking that was done on the Ark.
But why?
I don't know.
Commander already admitted boosting our anomaly tracking.
He also said there's something else out there. He's almost obsessed. He doesn't trust Space Force. Maybe that's his cover.
We need to confront him.
I don't think we have the time. We're approaching Jupiter, and Space Force is closing in on us.
Okay, but later for sure.
Wake the commander and get to the bridge. He also said there's something else, a secret track. Plan the malfunctions and the secret track. He doesn't trust me. He doesn't trust me. Commander, we've got attention from Space Force.
Have they taken any hostile actions? For how long?
No hostile actions. They've been hanging back for quite a while now, but they're closing pretty fast.
Lieutenant, launch a satellite.
Commander, we're not even at launching point.
Launch it anyway.
Commander, we need this payload. If it doesn't achieve proper orbit, we're down 50 million credits, and the contract's lost.
This is United States Space Force vessel Kaylee, Maverick 1.
Lieutenant, stand by for launch.
One of those 2 contacts, 166 This is United States Space Force vessel Kaylee, Maverick 1. Please acknowledge.
Well, this is Commander Gray of the private starship Maverick 1. We are not in any need of your assistance.
Commander, your position is very close to the military exclusion zone.
I know where I'm at. In free space on a scientific probe and delivery mission. All the permits have been filed. You know that.
Commander, let's not be coy here. We all know what the mission is. If you choose to proceed, we will not come to your rescue, and there's a high probability that you'll never come home.
The Ark is out there. You know where it is.
Gray, don't do this. Maverick Aerospace will be sanctioned.
Where's my family? What are you hiding?
This is a Defense Department national security special operation. If you ever do make it back to Earth, you and your crew will face charges.
In range to launch.
I advise you to stand aside. We are launching a civilian probe, under contract and within international space law. Maverick 1, over and out.
They are arming, sir, and we are painted.
Launch that satellite.
Ready? Launch. Go.
Captain, set the course. Let's get on with this.
They're not gonna stop us. They know we're not coming back.
Well, you're probably right. And they're probably just fine with that.
They already know where the Ark is. And what and who caused its disappearance.
Well, somebody knows.
Keys! Evasive!
Just a warning shot. Across the bow.
Our company's done. We're fugitives.
Well, you've come too far to turn back now. Full speed ahead.
It's time.
I'll take watch, you two hibernate.
No, I'll take watch.
But Commander, we need to...
No buts. Yes. I'll wake you up should anything happen.
I'll set the auto release as we approach Saturn.
You worried about something, Lieutenant?
Just safety. Should be standard, Commander.
All right. Well, set it for both of you then. Computer.
Good afternoon, Commander Gray.
Show me the schematics on the Maverick navigation system built for the NASA Ark and all the Maverick tracking projects.
I'm sorry. These files are no longer available. Access denied.
Computer, show me all the files on the Maverick employees that worked on Ark navigation and tracking.
Access denied. I'm sorry, Commander. You no longer have access.
Are we already sanctioned? Computer, who was the last person to access this bank of files?
Access denied. I'm sorry, Commander. Your access is denied. I'm sorry, Commander.
Maverick 1 to Space Force. This is Commander Gray.
There's no need to get angry.
Come in, Space Force.
There's no need to get angry.
Commander Gray to headquarters.
There's no need to get angry.
Maverick 1 to Space Force. Come in. This is Commander Gray. Maverick 1 to Space Force headquarters. Come in. Can anybody hear me? Can anybody hear me? What's going on here anyway?
There's no need to get angry.
Computer off.
I'm sorry, Commander.
Everything okay, Commander?
Oh, yeah. Fine.
Any new developments, Commander?
No. Nothing new. Just another long ride.
We're approaching Saturn, sir.
Anomaly sensor 5 is picking up something. Energy? Gases? Nothing I've ever seen. We're headed right for it.
Prepare for evasive action.
No. No, this has got to be it. Stay the course. Commander!
It's too late. It's
Stay the course. This has got to be it.
Reyes, give me a ship status.
Copy that.
Great. How you doing? Great.
Everything looks good.
Good. We need to get him to the chamber right now.
All right, let's go.
You know, back in the chamber room, I could have swore we were spinning out of control.
I felt it too. Our speed and course hasn't changed. The black box not showing any change in course, speed, pitch, or rotation of any kind.
Check the hibernation log.
Until the time we went in, until the time we came out, it doesn't correlate with the distance we should have gone or the rate of speed.
Time went by, we didn't go anywhere?
Yeah, engines were running steady. We should have gone somewhere. It's like we're just standing still.
Well, I can't find any damage to the ship, but for some reason the AI computer doesn't seem to be working.
You were conscious the whole time, right?
Yeah, I was.
Ship seemed a little transparent at times.
Yeah, I saw it. I'm setting course for Earth.
What about the Ark?
We're not receiving any signals from our probes, which is beyond strange. This whole situation is beyond strange. We got Gray in a chamber in some medical condition.
We can still do this.
Yes, we can, but in the other direction, towards Earth. I'm declaring an in-flight emergency. Contact headquarters, contact Space Force, and NASA.
Maverick headquarters, this is Maverick 1, come in. Maverick headquarters, come in. Space Force. Space Force, this is Maverick 1 Starship, come in.
Try NASA.
It's like they're not even transmitting. I can't even pick up our probes on Jupiter. picking up a transponder. And it's using an old Maverick signal from like 40 years ago?
It's impossible.
It's coming from Mars. We should check it out.
It's out of our way. We need to stay on mission.
The Ark is our mission, and this may have something to do with it. And we haven't picked up a signal since Saturn.
Damn it, Reyes! Go check on the commander. Changing course to Mars.
How you feeling, Commander? Ready to get back to work?
Hi. I gotta tell you something. Reyes, I gotta tell you something.
It's a beacon for help, but it's very weak.
Commander, I need you to look at that signal, would you please?
God, is that Air Force One?
That's... We worked on that search. Great. With your dad. Didn't he say it went down in the Bermuda Triangle?
My dad did say it was Bermuda. But it's moved.
We can see that it's been moved.
I'm not talking about the plane, damn it. It's been mapped 1,000 times. Mars has been mapped. You can see it's not been there. It doesn't matter. There's something else.
I know what it is, and you caused this.
Damn it, Reyes. Damn it, Reyes, there's something else. That ain't it. No. You don't understand.
Hell, Gray, I saw the computer files. The guidance, the navigation, the whole tracking system.
I already admitted. Boosted anomaly tracking. Sensor number 5, Maverick 1. I never messed with the Ark.
And the old plane, you messed with that too.
No, I didn't. Look, none of this matters. None of this.
That's the trouble with you, Gray. Nothing ever matters. It's like a damn game to you.
Reyes, I saw what's happening. Listen to me.
Reyes, man your station, now!
That was my daughter out there.
Reyes, what have you done? Man your station. We're almost home, for crying out loud.
Mason, something's wrong. There's rings around the Earth.
Earth's not registering. Unknown planet? What the hell is going on here? Check our analyzer circuit.
It's the Ark on our remote monitor.
Something's happening.
Look, our emergency monitor.
Carry on! Maverick 1! Maverick 1! Come in! This is Ark!
I've lost control of the ship.
Maverick 1, do you hear me? Zach! Mason! Dad! Come in! Get out of here before it's too late!
Congratulations! I'm Captain Schmidt. I may not be the Captain Schmidt you remember. Congratulations on finding the Ark, but as you can see, it is mine now. Oh, and also I've captured your ship. I guess that's game over, no?
Dude, that was so cool.
Bro, that was totally rad.
You guys, that game's been broken for like a month now. Can't you read the sign?
Whoa.
Dude!